Welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal podcast. This is your host, Rav. Thank you so much for being here. Wherever you are in the world, I hope this podcast finds you well and happy and thriving and safe. And I very much appreciate you tuning back in, or if this is your first time, thank you so much for giving this a try. I'm recording this Friday morning, Melbourne, Australian time, and look, it's been a quietish week on the Arsenal front. Thankfully, we haven't had 4 games this week, right? Because the fixture congestion has been intense. So we have not been in action. There's plenty to talk about still, though. There's a few key talking points as things tick along and bubble away, and we are fast approaching now the West Ham fixture tomorrow night. Well, I guess it's tomorrow night for us, about a 2 a.m. kickoff Sunday morning time for us over on this side of the world. So that presents its own challenges, which I've spoken about in previous podcasts. If you're a previous listener, so we are fast approaching game time. And look, there's the way I describe this is that Arsenal have a real pulse at the moment. There's been some favourable things happen in the last 48 hours, which I will cover, including the Liverpool result at Aston Villa. And Champions League draw, some talking points there. I believe the actual draw, the UEFA draw, will be announced tonight, overnight for us. If you're on the other side of the world, of course, it will happen during the day, your time. So you'll more likely be aware of our opponent before I am. And a few other bits and pieces to talk about. So look, let's start. Let's start. Let's just get right into it. I said to myself I was not going to watch the Liverpool Aston Villa match because I just knew what was going to happen, right? Sometimes when I take a vested interest in opposition matches and, you hope that they drop points, you hope that they'll lose. Sometimes I feel like I'm the jinx. Maybe everyone feels this, right? Maybe everyone's has that superstitious side that they're just not going to check and, like that they don't want to get too emotionally invested to it because it's going to come back to bite and all that sort of stuff. I said I wasn't going to watch, and do you reckon I didn't watch? Do you reckon I kept that promise to myself? Nope, no chance. Right, so I did tune in late in the first half. I knew it was. I did check the score before that. I can't help myself. It's just more of a reflex impulse, right? I can't help myself. And for those of you who have listened before, I have 2 sons, 2 beautiful boys who also really enjoy following Arsenal, and they were aware that Liverpool were playing midweek, so they were curious too. The odd question comes in: oh, did they win? Did they not? So I kind of couldn't not just tune in for it. So it is. Look, it's an excellent result for Arsenal. It is. We have to take any opportunity, any drop points for Liverpool. It's a blessing for us. It absolutely is. Our situation is that fine in terms of margins and variables and needing elements of luck, multiple elements of luck really, for things to open a pathway for us. And Liverpool dropping points is most certainly welcome. I was quite cynical going into this match. I spoke about it last time, that the way Emery rolled over when facing City late last season, resting all their big guns, their big players, they got smashed. I think it was 3-0. Actually, perhaps it was 4-0. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but they got hammered and they were just never up for it. I'm a bit cynical. I thought it's the same thing approaching this time. However, you know what? Absolute fair credit, fair play to Villa. They gave it a red-hot crack, and in fact, they could have won it. They had the better of the last few chances. Deep into injury time, and there was one from Daniel Marlin. I was on the edge of my seat. I really was. Like it just skimmed past the post. It could have been a late winner, right? It wasn't to be though. But having said that, they've dropped 2 points. This is huge for us because in recent weeks their form hasn't been absolutely exceptional. It hasn't been clinical. That they haven't been taking maximum points. The problem is, though, for us, from an Arsenal point of view, as you don't need me to remind you, is that we are so stretched as a squad. We are that paper thin that there's no guarantee. There's absolutely no guarantee that we'll be able to seize the opportunity and take maximum points in ours. Sometimes when they've dropped points, we've done the same, right? So the results have kind of matched each other. Now, when you're that far back, we have to exceed their points tally. I know I'm stating the very, very obvious here, right? You don't need me to tell you the basic maths. However, it's crunch time now. We can no longer afford to not seize these opportunities. When you get a sniff, so to speak, we must smell blood. We must absolutely capitalize. And we've been given one, right? We play first this weekend. We face West Ham at home, which, again, to not jinx anything, right? If Arsenal are serious about winning the Premier League, and we absolutely are, I've got no doubt of that. The team, the manager, we want this, right? That's palpable. If we're serious about it, we must win. You cannot drop points in a fixture like this. You just cannot. We must win. I don't care if it's ugly or not pretty, not fluent. I think we all have made that concession in our heads, right? Well, hopefully we all have, that it's not going to be the fluent, beautiful Arsenal that we love to see flourishing and thriving, and and hammering teams for 5-6 like we did last season, emptying stadiums and all the good stuff that happened with it. We just need to win. Right? I'll take a 1-0 off someone's shin or hip or someone's back or shoulder or something, right? It doesn't matter to me. It's 3 points. 3 points must be the objective. And if we do so, that gap is 5 points, with both teams having played the equal number of matches. The day after, you plant that seed of doubt. All of a sudden, a week or two back, it was looking like Liverpool could have extended their lead to, I believe it could have been 10 points. Again, pardon me if I've got that wrong, but I'm referencing the Everton match, where there was a genuine chance for them to really get that lead, up to 9-10 points. And just psychologically, it's a big blow. So that last second equaliser for Everton and the raucous celebrations after, red cards for Liverpool, you need these sort of defining moments, and just give them a sense of doubt, a little bit of a wobble, right? So we benefited from that. I do believe the two things are linked. So all of a sudden, Liverpool go into this match against Villa off the back of a bit of a shaky result, a bit nervy. This stuff matters. The pressure just starts to incrementally dial up, right? And that's what we want. Like they're by all intents and purposes, they should be winning this league. They're that far ahead, and they've had a tremendous season, right? Full credit to them. They shouldn't be dropping the title from here. However, that's the kind of doubt we want placed in their minds. And it's something I think we as Arsenal supporters, this strikes close to home for us, because we've seen that our team, our club, we weren't able to handle that pressure. I'm just going to call it like it is. And there's no shame in saying this, right? 2 seasons ago, when we sort of came out of nowhere, no one really foresaw this, that we were going to be first of all, in a title race, but secondly, leading for as long as we were, leading the table, only to be chased down by City. We didn't handle that pressure. It was new to everyone. It was new to the manager, new to the players, a very young team, right? This stuff matters. We're all human, right? We all have, little bits of, little moments of doubt inside of us, right? And City, the unrelenting machine they seized their opportunity, and the pressure was just a bit too much for us to handle. And look, that's okay. That's okay, because I actually prefer this position. Now, what I'm saying is I don't prefer our injury position, not at all. What I'm suggesting is I actually think we're better off placed now, just being the chaser, right? The hunted versus the hunter, right? So we are. I think this suits us more. That we are now just going to hopefully just strike when the time is right and put together what I hope is quite a comprehensive, immense run to end the season and overtake them. I would prefer this position for Arsenal. Now, that doesn't mean that I want to be 8 points back. Doesn't mean I want to have 4 players out. Not at all. I mean, that speaks for itself, right? It is a dire, desperate situation we find ourselves in. However, I still believe in them. I still believe that we're just going to find a way, bit by bit. All this stuff is a shot in the arm to the club when they see that Villa drew with them. They see who Liverpool's got next. They're away to City this weekend, the day after we play. If we get the job done against West Ham and we pack on 3 points into that table, all of a sudden, 5 points. 5 points is not that much. That's one bad week. We have experienced that. Again, I'm sorry to keep going back to a couple of seasons ago. However, we have experienced one bad week. Remember the West Ham draw a couple of years ago? Ironically, our opponent this weekend. A Saka missed penalty. We were up 2-0 ahead at Anfield against Liverpool, right? We ended up drawing. We dropped 4 points on those fixtures. The Southampton was a hammer blow. That draw at home, inexplicably dropping points to them, right? And then, that was all in the lead up to the City match at the Etihad, and they thumped us because by then, right, psychologically, we'd been dealt a number of blows. So that was all in the space of a week or so. Now 5 points we can do this. We can overtake them. If they have a wobble or one bad week, we must be there ready to capitalize, to do our job, to get the job done. And we still got to go to Anfield, remember? So irrespective of all the other results, we must win that. I think that's been clearly evident for some time that we have to win that. So all of a sudden, that's an extra 3 points. Can we maximize our results and win everywhere else? And can they drop 2 or 3 points elsewhere for us to overtake? I believe yes. And I know I sound wildly crazy. I understand that. And I won't tell anyone else how to feel about it or what your outlook is. I totally understand. There's a large percentage of Arsenal fans who inside believe it's done, believe that we're not going to overhaul them and we're not going to end up with any trophies this season. And again, I'm not going to begrudge anyone of that. We all have our viewpoints and perspectives on it. I'm just trying to share mine because I very much see a pathway, the opportunities opening up and presenting themselves. Whether Arsenal, this is the big question, whether Arsenal in such a stretched position with so little options in terms of forwards and the impact that can have on scoring goals, whether Arsenal can capitalise, that's the big question. And I very much have my worries about that too, my concerns, because as good as it was against Leicester, right, to win and Marino to come off the bench and score those 2 goals, Ethan performing beautifully, he was on another planet that day. He was extraordinarily good. It's not always going to work out like that, is it? It's not. Will lightning strike twice again with Marino up front? We just don't know. So there's still so much that has to go right for Arsenal, given the position we're in, given that we're chasing, compared to Liverpool, who have pretty much a fully fit team. Well, I guess their key players. Salah plays every match, Van Dijk, right? So they've got all their key players fit and healthy, and they're sitting top of the table. So they have more margin for error than we do. So just to round off this particular point, they face City next, the day after we face West Ham. So we must get our job done. They go to the Etihad, a place that they haven't won for in quite some time. City are in horrendous form though, right? They were dismantled by Madrid. Ominous signs for the Champions League, by the way. I mean, Real Madrid just flick another switch when they're in the Champions League. So that's a bit ominous for the latter stages, but that's a discussion for another time. City, can they get something from Liverpool at home? Haaland's under an injury cloud. Well, I understand the doubts there as well. However, from my understanding, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, that Arne Slot won't be on the sidelines for this one. I don't know how he was able to that red card. I thought it takes automatic effect at the very next domestic match. So I don't know how he was. I'm not sure if there's some sort of appeal process that's delayed that from coming into effect. But from what I read or heard, again, I'm happy to be wrong here, that he won't be on the touchline this weekend in a massive fixture away. And these are small differences. I know that, like in the grand scheme of things, right? How much do they really matter? But the reality is they do. We saw Arsenal last season when they ridiculously sanctioned Arteta for those supposedly over-the-top celebrations after the late winner against Luton, the Rice header. We were without him for the very next match. That very next match was Villa, and we lost that. And we know in the grand scheme of things, right, how costly those fixtures against the likes of Villa and Fulham last season were. But we lost a match without the manager on the touchline. Does this automatically mean that we would have won it if he was there? Well, I'm not that simplistic, but what I'm saying is the marginal differences, they matter, right? If he was touchline, we see how many opportunities Arsenal take with breaks in play or a player down injured or something, right? Where he can give instructions. He can call over some key leaders. Odegaard, Jorginho if he's on the pitch, Gabriel Saliba, you see him coaching live, in game, in play. He's watching things unfold right in front of his eyes and he's responding to them, right? So these things make a difference. if Slot is not there against City, that's going to make a difference against a key rival who they've had, these long battles with over many, many years. So I understand a lot of this can come across as waffle and that I'm searching and reaching for reasons to continue to be positive. However, if some of this makes sense to you, please reach out and let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback, your comments, right? I believe that there is a palpable belief coming from the club, coming from the manager, the way they talk. Just compare the way Arteta talks about coping with injuries with that other team down the road in North London, right? Their manager, he just stares at his feet, looks defeated, right? Barely even making eye contact, looking at people, looking at the interviewer, looking at the camera. Contrast that to the confidence that Arteta exudes, right? And this stuff, it matters, right? There's a belief around the club. They believe in what they're doing. They believe in their teammates. We are seeing people step up and say, you know what? I'm going to take responsibility today. I'm going to get it done. Wanyeri's done it at 17. Lewis Skelly at 18. We see Rice, I believe he's had a fantastic month or so, right? He's got a hell of an engine on him. It seems to be back. He is stepping up. He's trying to crash the box, right? Noting that we're missing that physical monster in Havertz, right? He's trying to be that man who times his run into the box at the back post. Marino can give us that, right? I think he'll start against West Ham. So we've got people willing and able to put their hand up and say, you know what, I'm going to do my part for the team. Is that going to be enough? Does that automatically equate to enough points to get the job done? I don't know, and I share people's doubts. However, whatever happens, I'm confident that we are going to leave it all out there. We are going to try everything we can. And if it doesn't happen, look, it doesn't happen. That's life, right? That's football. That's life. However, I just feel as long as there's a pulse, which there very much is, we are going to treat every single match like our entire season depends on it. We must go in with that mentality and do our absolute best, leave it all out there, and I'm confident that will be enough to get the job done. Even if it's skanked in off someone's knee or shin, I don't care, right? I want 3 points, and I believe that this team will find a way. So just moving on to some other key topics before I wrap this one up. Shortly after I published my other podcast a few days ago, I saw that Kai Havertz had posted he'd posted on social media about his surgery. And it's just really, really important. We just talk about the human side of all of this, right? Because we've seen in the last, sadly, in the last few weeks, we've seen a number of these types of photos, right? The players in their hospital gowns, in their post-surgery, in the treatment room with braces on their legs. We've seen it with Saka, we've seen it with Jesus, right? There's a real human element to all this. Like, no one wants to be injured. No one wants to be out for this period of time. This is their profession. This is their passion. This is their love, right? Like they put so much on the line to get to this elite level, and when they're denied the chances through serious, very, very serious injuries, like it extends far beyond just losing them on the pitch for whatever period of time. This impacts people's lives, their families, their mental health, their well-being. Also, it calls into question their outlook beyond the injury and beyond football as well, right? With some very serious repercussions that can happen later in life. So I wish Havertz all the best. It's just I really, really miss him because I know all the conjecture around him. We don't need to go into that, right? We do need support. We do need strengthening in that position to get the best out of him, to rotate with him, to support him on the pitch as well, right? We all know that. However, the team, he's an essential cog for Arsenal. He spills his tank. He gives everything the club. Dual monster. He's integral to the way we play. Tomiyasu is another who has the club has been very tight-lipped about the actual injury. I've heard some people mention it must be an ACL, given that the communication from the club is that he's expected later this calendar year, right? So that's a massive layoff, a massive recuperation. So I'm not sure of the actual specifics of the injury, and we probably don't really need to. That's there to share if they want to. It's not really our business. However, it is a huge injury. And it seems a very complicated one because he's had a number of setbacks and a number of things leading up to this. So Tomiyasu, again, I understand, or maybe I don't fully understand this actually, I'll correct myself. people automatically, the reflex action is to say, it's time to move on, get rid of him, sell him, et cetera, et cetera. And look, aside from the obvious that we're not selling, you can't sell injured players. Like no one's buying Jesus this summer or Tomiyasu and whatnot, or Reece Nelson, I believe, is another one who's had a considerable hamstring injury as well, I think, just a bit coincidental, unfortunately. But no one's buying injured players. So put aside from a transactional viewpoint, right, the human element, right, it really, really matters to me. I'm not necessarily interested in how much they earn per week while they recuperate. That's their profession. They're entitled to that, right? They've earned this position, and we have a duty of care to look after them. So just with Tomiyasu, he was fantastic. Like in the early Arsenal project, so to speak, the Arteta project, there was a defining summer where we'd moved on some players, high profile players. We had to pay some of them to leave the club, and the club then pivoted strategies and invested in a number of young talent. Tomiyasu was one of them. He was essential, right, in the early phases of this Arteta rebuild project, this resurgence back towards being in the trophy discussions, or whatever you want to call it, right? The truth is, the facts are, Tomiyasu was integral. And even as we complemented the defence and the emergence of White as a right back, Saliba stepping in and just being, out of this world, Tomiyasu was still essential. On either flank, on either fullback, he was, if he didn't start, he was one of the first subs made, and he was a very versatile footballer. Fantastic in the air, very assured, very reliable. Right, he was so integral to the group, and you saw his standing in Arteta's viewpoint, because that's reflected on the pitch. Right, the manager shows what they think of the players by their utilisation, and he was always a key part. He might have been the 12th or 13th person, right, in the squad. He was either starting or featuring very regularly as a substitute. So I really wish him all the best. Yes, we've strengthened now in that area to mitigate for his unfortunate recurring injuries. I really do wish him all the best. I'm hoping he's back, and I know he's contracted until the end of next season. And let's just hope he can get back on the pitch and have a few months before the next season, right? He also will be playing for his future, not just at Arsenal but elsewhere. Another contract, right? And I just know he gives everything. He's an ultimate professional, and he will give his everything for the club, irrespective of what the outlook holds beyond Arsenal. So I really wish him the best. Of course, Havertz too. I know they're going to be well looked after. They've got elite level of medical professions and recuperations, but you got to look after the players, the mental health side as well, right? And it really seems like the club is galvanized around them. There's an excellent feeling within the group, excellent camaraderie, excellent spirit, and I'm sure they're all cheering the players on, and they'll be involved as much as they can in and around the club on match day. And, every single margin will matter, right? Just to get that feel-good factor amongst the club, that support. And I'm very confident we're still going to be able to navigate through this little challenging period ahead. This point, of course, extends to all of us. It extends to you as the listeners. Look after yourselves, right? Life is tough. Life is challenging. I've spoken at length before about just being mindful of what we consume, right? Is it serving us? Is it serving us entering into maybe any online debates or trolls or sledges towards Arsenal or anything else, right? Just be mindful of how you choose to utilize your time and the effect it has on your well-being and the ramifications in other aspects of your life. Just look after yourselves, look after each other, right? Because this stuff really, really matters. It matters to all of us. We're very passionate about the club, of course. If you're listening to this, clearly there's a reason you want to listen to more Arsenal content. And just look after yourself. Make sure your choices, the things around you, are serving you, and keep giving your support. Be kind, right? Closing on your circles, checking on your close relationships, right? And really, really invest more in that if other aspects, other activities are not serving you. So I am mindful of the time here. I am going on a little bit, which I've been prone to do. So I wanted to touch on, and I was a bit up in the air how much time to devote to this topic, but the Arsenal financial results. Look, full disclosure, I love this stuff. I'm a bit of a stats nerd. Actually, not a bit of a stats nerd. I'm very much a financial figures nerd. For those of you who've listened to me before, I have a background in banking finance. I was very fortunate to be a senior manager at a big bank here in Australia for many, many years. And very often I'd be given a set of financial statements put across my desk for me to view and just summarize and analyze to see if we wanted to participate in some very significant transactions with them. So I'm quite well versed in reading this sort of stuff. I'm certainly no expert, and there are many others online who I absolutely read every word of their summaries, and I very much enjoy it, such as Swiss Ramble. So I'm looking forward to that summary in due course. But Arsenal, this is a very, very strong set of results. It really is. Don't worry too much about the headline loss of the £17 million. That's okay, because we have been, we are coming out the tail end of some very significant investment over the last 3 to 5 years under the KSC ownership. The strategies are really paying dividends now. Like they're really coming to fruition. The loss the previous year was over 52 million, I believe. So that gap has been very much closed off the back of some understandable increases in wages, right? Champions League bonuses kick in. That's a very considerable cost, but this all links back to our strategy. I touched on it before, right? We invested in young players a few seasons ago. The strategy was to get Arsenal back towards the top, participate in Champions League, and as of the published date of those financial results, just keep in mind there for 2024, so they capture the previous season only, which is Arsenal's return to the Champions League. And there's a tremendous uplift of broadcasting revenue. The UEFA revenue and distribution is so significant. It is massive. Pales into comparison to those years that we were sort of dwindling away in the Europa League, right? It's not even in the same ballpark. It is enormous. So Arsenal have really benefited from that. The first time that our headline revenue has crossed £600 million, it's fantastic. Excellent results, and I'm expecting next year, so to capture the current year that is currently underway, the next set of financial results, I'm expecting another huge uplift, because it's our second successive season in the Champions League. Our broadcasting revenue will continue to be strong. There's some key commercial partnerships that have been achieved by the club, so credit to all of them who have been able to achieve that. So what this all means, right, and again, I'm mindful of not devoting too much time on this topic if this is not really your thing. I totally understand and respect that. What this means is that Arsenal can go big this summer. We really can. And I get it, the cynical side, sometimes I feel it too, right? How many times do I hear that? And do we see that Arsenal have kept the powder dry, so to speak, to go big in the summer? Arsenal really have the capacity to. Got tremendous cash holdings, right? The investment is really, really paying off over the last few years. And touch wood, I don't want to jinx anything. It looks like we are here to stay at this top end, at this top end of the dining table, so to speak, in Europe and in the Premier League level. So we have the capacity to make significant investment this summer. Now, who that is or what positions, we know the positions. It's a matter of how do we want to distribute that allocation across a couple of key signings such as Šeško. Do we need to strengthen wide? We probably do. However, Wanyeri's emergence really, that understandably has given us room to maneuver and think. We're going to invest in midfield. Zuma Mendes has been heavily linked, right? We're going to have some exits too, fullback, some players leaving on contracts expiring. So there will be a very active, busy summer, which we'll talk about at length another time. However, this platform that we're on, it is a position of tremendous strength. So testament to the club. It's overall very, very well run. I understand I talk from a place of privilege all the way over here in Australia. I know many of you who do feel the pinch, not just in terms of football ticketing prices, right? But we're all feeling the pinch in terms of cost of living, rents, mortgages, interest rates, groceries, electrical bills. It's unrelenting at the moment. I understand that, and it can be hard then you receive that notification that the club is going to increase ticketing prices again, right? So I'm cognizant of that. I'm mindful of that, and I understand it has an impact to all. However, what Arsenal are trying to do, thankfully, we are seeing on field the results of this strategy, because not everyone's strategy and investment pays off, right? We've experienced that too as a club. We've gone very hard in the market for players that then you're stuck with for 2, 3, 4 years. And, you don't really see that reflection on field in terms of performance and results. So from an Arsenal viewpoint, what we've been doing in the last 2 or 3 years, by and large, is really paid off, right? So let's see what unfolds there. Okay, and on that note, I think I'm going to give this particular podcast, I'll draw this one to a close. Thank you so much if you've listened this far. I really, really appreciate your time and your investment of time in listening, either for the first time or repeat listeners. I am been very, very lucky to do this for a few weeks now. I do check, I can't help myself. I do check the analytics section of my podcast platform just to see who's listening or if people are still tuning in. And I'm very, very pleased every time I check. I am still getting good numbers coming through. I've got some very loyal listeners. If you're listening to this part, according to my analytics, my most listened to regions are in Southampton, in the UK, and in Ashburn, in America. So if that's you listening, just a huge heartfelt thank you. Thank you so much. You've listened multiple times. And wherever you are in the world, you are certainly most welcome here. I really appreciate your time. Any feedback or comments or suggestions, please, I see that as a gift, right? Let me know if anything that made sense, or if I'm talking crap, feel free to let me know as well, right? I'm a big boy. I can handle that too. If you're listening on a podcast platform, a rating, a review really, really would help me tremendously if you would be so kind to do so. Or subscribe and comment if you like on YouTube and whatnot. And just a huge heartfelt thank you. I'm really, really enjoying this. I want to keep putting more and more podcasts together. Just a bit of a fun side hobby I have, because I talk and live and breathe so much Arsenal anyway. So why not every now and then hop on and record something, put it out there for others to hopefully enjoy. And I'll be back on post West Ham, hopefully just touch wood, talking about an Arsenal win and us getting our job done. But until then, thank you so much. Stay well to all of you. I really appreciate your time, and I'll talk to you next time. Come on, Arsenal.